Oh, thank you. Yes, thanks. If you just slide it away from the, like that. And you just got to tighten it down.
Yeah, when I tighten it, that's when I can't, it's not going to be.
Just slide it away from
Oh, it looks like it's upside down.
the, you just got to tighten it down. Oh, look, I'm listening. I'm talking out here.
It's projecting upside down for some reason.
Yeah. Our orientation's locked. Oh, look, I'm listening. I'm talking out here.
It's projecting upside down.
Yeah. Our orientation's locked. Oh, that's not the one I wanted.
Oh, okay, see, this is what keeps happening.
That's not the one I wanted.
Wait a minute.
So, this.
And then that is. Yeah, that might be good enough.
You can zoom in on yourself a little bit if you wanted.
All right. Very good. Good enough.
You got enough battery?
Yeah.
Okay. Battery? Okay.
Which has all of the watches on it, and when they're gonna be here. Well, you have to make an arrow. So are these.
Welcome. So this is, I think, our 9th year of Starry Starry Night. We started it a long time ago and we thought, oh, we'll have maybe 50 people. Now this festival has grown to over 3,000, so it's pretty big. 9th year of Starry Starry Night. We started it a long time ago. We thought, oh, that sounds pretty good. Mine. Okay, well, we were trying to live stream, so I'm not sure. Maybe if I turn my mic off, it'll stop doing that. We can go to the moon, but we can't figure out microphone. All right. So my name is Erica. I am with Bok Tower Gardens, and I've been here for 10 years. So I'm so glad that you're joining us today. Our next presenter is a 2-time alumnus of the University of Central Florida. Go Knights! I'm I'm also proud to be a two-time alumnus of the University of Central Florida as well, so we share that. He went on to earn his postdoctoral degree at Nova Southeastern University, but most importantly, he has been a NASA ambassador since 2019. So it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Dr. Mark Gallant.
All right, thanks for that introduction. So, good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes for my Spanish speakers. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mark Gallant, and I am an ambassador for NASA. This is something I kind of do on the side. My full-time job is I'm a sociology professor at Valencia College over in Orlando. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk to you about some of the very exciting things that are happening at NASA. Now, if you're a NASA fan, you know that there are actually a lot of things going on, and I've only got about 30-35 minutes to talk to you, with a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So I've selected just a few items to talk about. Probably the most exciting one is a big rocket launch we have coming up within about 2 weeks if all goes well. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's my agenda. I do want to talk about the International Space Station. There have been a few interesting things happening on that, if you keep track of the news. We're talking about the Artemis program, and most specifically, Artemis 2. We're going to then talk about the Perseverance Mars rover with the small little Ingenuity helicopter that caught a ride with Perseverance. Talk about the newest, biggest, baddest telescope, space telescope, the James Webb. And then I want to show you something really cool that you can go home and do later today if you don't already know about it, and that's NASA Eyes. Give you some homework. And then again, at the end, we have some Q&A time. So let's start right into talking about the ISS, the International Space Station, that was built predominantly back in the late 1990s, but it has been inhabited since 2000. So we're now approaching 26 years of consistent human habitation going around the Earth. The ISS is going over 17,000 miles above us, about 250 miles above us, and it orbits the Earth roughly about every 90 minutes, 97 to be exact. How many of you are familiar with Spot the Station? Anybody? A few of you. For those who are not, do a Google search later for Spot the Station, and you can sign up for alerts when you can go outside at nighttime and see the ISS pass overhead. Search, it's again, we're talking about the ISS, spotthestation.nasa.gov is the actual website. Put in your location, it will send you an email and tell you the date, the time, the direction to look, how long it's visible to you. Now when you take a look at it with your eyes, you won't see this. You're going to see a little white dot go across the sky. And for some people, seeing a little white dot go across the sky is not too exciting. But with using your imagination, you then know what that little dot represents. All right, so really cool. So check it out. The ISS is about the size of an American football stadium. It is coming to the end of its life. NASA is looking at maybe another 4 or 5 years, and NASA is taking a look at what would be the best plan to do with it, like for example, to deorbit it. All right, so it's only got a few years left. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see the current patch for the current expedition. NASA loves symbolism. There's a lot of symbolism in NASA, so they have a patch for everything, including every expedition. So that's the current one for expedition number 74. Now for some current news, I'm sure that you probably heard that a couple weeks ago, there was a medical situation that developed. The astronauts, 4 astronauts, were not supposed to come home until March, but they decided, due to this medical condition that they could not appropriately address on the ISS, to bring them home early. So they came home about a week ago. There were 4 astronauts. They did not release the name of the astronaut that was having the medical condition for privacy, so we don't know who it is, and I don't think we really need to know who it is. But luckily, they're all back, and the person that needed the medical attention, I'm sure, is getting that medical attention. February 15th is the next launch for the next group going to the ISS, all right? And that will be on a Falcon rocket, SpaceX, of course, launching from Kennedy Space Center, all right? So let me keep us moving here. Talk about another mission, and that's the Artemis program. So as you know, back in the 1960s and 1970s, we had the Apollo program where we went to the moon. And it's been a long time, but NASA decided that we need to go back. Any ideas why we're going back to the moon if we've already done it? That's one reason.
Base to go to Mars.
Yes, so the long-term objective is to go to Mars. Mars is going to be extremely difficult, all right? To get to the moon, you're looking at 2.5 days from Earth. To go to Mars, you're looking at about 9 months. When we go to the moon, we can stay for a relatively short period of time, bring the astronauts back home relatively quickly. For example, Artemis 2 mission, it will be about 10 days. You're going to Mars, it takes 9 months to get there. You're not going to immediately turn around and come back. You're going to be there until the planets align in the right time so that you can save fuel and time to get back. You're probably looking at a 3-year mission. What are they going to do when they get there? They can't stay in a small craft. So there are lots of issues that have to be worked out. So the goal of sending NASA or astronauts back to the moon is to live on a foreign body for an extended period of time to work out some of these issues that need to be worked out to go to Mars. Okay? There are other items, other things, other objectives, but that's one of the key ones. So no, it's not a waste of time. A lot of people think we've done that, let's do something else. We have to do this to take the next giant leap, and that's on Mars. So this new program is called the Artemis program. Artemis, of course, is the twin sister of Apollo. Again, in NASA, everything is symbolic. And we had the Artemis 1 launch back in November of 2022. And on the right side of the screen, you see a picture that I had the opportunity to take a few weeks before the launch when the SLS, that's the name of the rocket, the Space Launch System, was on pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center. So I went on one of those tours, and it was really cool to get to see the rocket before it launched. It did launch after a few attempts on November the 16th, and it came back. When I say it came back, it was really only the Orion crew capsule that is at the top that returned to Earth. All right, so returned on December the 11th, 2022. Most things went pretty well for the Artemis 1 mission. There were a couple issues with leaks. The biggest concern was the heat shield on the Orion space capsule that you can't see here. It would be underneath here. When this capsule is coming back, it's hitting the atmosphere, and it has to protect the overall Orion spacecraft and the astronauts inside. There was more damage to the heat shields than what they expected. So you wonder, it's been since 2022 since we've launched. What's the issue? Well, a lot of time was spent looking at what caused this extra damage and what should be done about it. Should the entire heat shield be replaced? Well, they decided that they will actually bring the next Orion spacecraft in at a different angle. So I don't know the exact engineering and planning behind it, but to simplify it, instead of coming in like this, we're going to come in more like this, which will cut down on the amount of friction and heat that will build up on the heat shield, protecting the craft and the astronauts inside. They've made some other changes, other tweaks, but the rocket, if you kind of keep up with the news, and I'm thinking if you're hearing this presentation, you probably do, the rocket rolled out to the launch pad 1 week ago today. Okay? Space Launch System is on pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center as we speak. You can actually go on YouTube and do a quick search, and you can see a live feed of it right now on the launch pad. The 4 astronauts, I'll be talking about them in just a minute, that are going on this journey, are in quarantine at this very time. Okay, they go into quarantine before mission so that they don't come down with some disease at the very, very last minute and cause issues with the personnel that's going. So they went into quarantine. I want to talk a little bit about the actual rocket itself. Again, the entire rocket is called the Space Launch System, or simply the SLS. This is the core stage, the orange section. This is built by the company Boeing. Inside, you have 2 different tanks that houses liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Okay? The liquid hydrogen is the main fuel, and the oxygen is another component that's used to get the hydrogen where it needs to be. We'll put it at that. You see the 2 solid rocket boosters. They should look familiar. Anyone know what they look familiar from? The Space Shuttle program, 1981 to 2011. They basically took the SRBs, the solid rocket boosters, and they added an extra segment. The Space Shuttle program, there were 4 segments. They added an extra one on each side for the Space Launch System. And those actually do 75% of the work to get this thing into space. Right? Most of the thrust comes from the SRBs. They are jettisoned or removed from the rocket roughly 2 minutes after launch. All right? The rest of the work will be done by 4, and you can't see them, 4 RS-25 engines that are here. Those also come from the Space Shuttle program. It's the same engines that were used for the 5 shuttles, supercharged. The Space Shuttles had 3, this is using 4, okay? More power is needed because this is not simply going into orbit around the Earth, this is going much further to the moon, so a lot more power is needed to get this beast out of our atmosphere, out of the gravity, and onto the moon. Okay? At the very top, and as I mentioned again, you can't see it because there are fairings that cover it up, but this is the crew capsule right here. It's called Orion, and that is hidden at the very top. That's where the crew will be, at the very top. This is a joint venture. Actually, several countries are involved with this. You can see, if you look very closely, below the NASA meatball is ESA, European Space Agency. They provided this part, the service module, for the Artemis program. Okay? What am I doing on time? This is the flight path. Now, if you haven't already, stop by my table before you leave, and you can see the flight path for the Artemis 1 launch that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. It's very different than the flight path for the one that's coming up for Artemis 2. You will notice, of course, we are not landing on the moon. In fact, we're not even going to be orbiting the moon. We're doing a simple flyby. Okay? Artemis 3, which is currently scheduled for 2028, my guess is it's probably going to go into 2029, hopefully not too much longer, is when we plan our next landing on the moon. So we're not landing. Artemis 1 was completely autonomous. There were no astronauts on board. It was about a 25-day mission. This is a 10-day mission, but again, 4 astronauts on board. what's happening. The main purpose of, or objective of Artemis 2 is to have humans on the rocket to manually test all of the systems out, to manually fly the Orion spacecraft, for example. Okay, that's the major objective of Artemis 2. When they do this flyby of the moon, it will be further than when the Apollo astronauts orbited or flew by the moon. For example, Apollo 8, they just did that flyby. Well, they were much closer to the moon. They're going to be further away. The way that I've heard it is if you take a basketball and you hold it in your hand at this distance away from you, that's what the moon will look like to the astronauts inside the Orion spacecraft. But they will be further away, which means that for the Artemis 2 mission, this will send humans further away from Earth than any humans have ever traveled, which is pretty cool. Okay? How many of you have ever heard about CubeSats? Anybody? A CubeSat is simply a satellite that's very small, about the size of a microwave oven. And there are 4 of them that are going along for the ride for the Artemis 2 mission. They are tucked away in part of the service module that I was speaking of earlier. And this is their position, and this is some basic information. They're going to be released relatively shortly after launch. I think it's like 8 or 10 hours after launch. These small little satellites will be released to do some scientific work. And this is something that's becoming much more popular for rocket launches. Why just send up one particular thing when you can send other things along for the ride? Do like cost sharing. Okay? So that's pretty exciting. There will be a few of them. These are the 4 brave souls that will be on top of that rocket. 4 Americans and 1 Canadian on the left-hand side. Okay? This is truly an international collaboration with the European Space Agency, with the Canadian Space Agency, and others that are involved in this program. As I mentioned earlier, NASA is very symbolic. One of the things I love about NASA, they're doing big things, they're doing great things, and they want to create symbolism in it. So this is the official patch for the Artemis 2 crew. I just screenshotted these last week when they rolled it out on the crawler. This is a screenshot of the SLS coming out of the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB, at Kennedy Space Center early last Saturday. I think this was like at 7:30. This is it on pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center. They have a wet dress rehearsal scheduled for a week from Monday, where they will be testing out just about all of the systems. They will be doing a countdown. I believe the countdown will end at 29 seconds. And they're not going to launch it, but they're going to go through all the system checks a week from Monday, which is only 3 days before the launch is scheduled to happen, Thursday, the 6th of February. All right. Here are the launch opportunities. The first launch opportunity will be on Thursday, February 6th at 9:41 p.m. So be watching the news, and if it in fact goes and you live anywhere in the area, you can, unless it's cloudy, walk out your front door, look to the, depending on where you live, from here it would be the northeast, and you will most definitely see something lighting up the sky. This is the biggest human-rated spacecraft at this time. Notice I emphasize human-rated because if you follow Elon Musk, he has a Starship. That's a bigger, more powerful rocket, but it's not currently human-rated. This is the current one. Once he gets it human-rated, then that will surpass DSLS. Regardless, you're going to be able to see this thing light up the sky, even if it is cloudy. So very exciting. If it gets delayed for whatever reason, and there are thousands and thousands of reasons why it could get delayed, weather, some type of a leak, some type of an astronaut issue, many, many things can delay it, then you can see the other dates that are available at this time. And so they have it projected right up to the end of April. So we'll see. Regardless, this is a really big thing, as you can imagine. It's not every day that we put human beings into a spacecraft, shoot them up into space on this thing that's full of gas and can explode, and send them on a mission 250,000 miles away to the moon. It takes a lot of smart people to get this to happen. And everything has to go right. And we certainly wish our very, very best to these 4 humans that are brave enough to take this journey. Anybody in here like to take the journey? Just a few of you? I think I would like to go. I think I'd go to the moon. Mars, there are way too many things that have to go right. I'm thinking it may be a one-way trip. I don't know. So, good luck to those 4 brave people. That's a little bit about the Artemis program. Let's talk about another exciting thing that's been happening at NASA, and that's exploring Mars. We've been exploring Mars for a long time with different types of technologies like satellites and rovers. This is our newest, biggest, baddest rover called Perseverance. Now, it's actually been on Mars for a few years now, but you can go on nasa.gov and you can actually see the exact path that it's taken. All right, what are some of the things that it's doing? Well, the number one thing that it's doing is looking for evidence of current, probably not going to find it, or past life. Now, because Mars has lost its atmosphere, the chances of Perseverance finding little green people with antennas is very, very slim. Even finding fish swimming around, very, very slim, but it might be able to find some evidence of life under the sand. In fact, this is the tool that was used to collect samples, Martian soil samples. Now, there were plans to go and pick up those samples in another mission and bring them back to Earth. At this time, it's been put on hold because of budget issues. Hopefully, in the very near future, we can restore those dollars, get a mission to go pick up the soil samples and bring them back to Earth. This rover is equipped with different science technology that can do some testing aboard it. However, it doesn't have the full suite of things that can be done here on Earth. So in order to do in-depth study, we need to get the soil back. So hopefully we can get that budget restored and get up there and get those and bring them back. It's about the size of a small vehicle, all right? And it's been moving around. So again, go on nasa.gov and check it out, and you can see the actual path that it's taken and what they have planned for it. They have people at JPL in California that actually drive this thing and control it. I think I'd like to sign up for that job. That would be pretty cool to say, hey, yeah, I've driven a rover on Mars. How many of you are familiar with Ingenuity? Anybody? A couple of you, about 3 or 4 of you. So this is very exciting. Before this rover was launched to Mars, the geniuses over at JPL said, hey, why don't we see if we can create a very small helicopter and send it along and see if it will fly? Well, as a pilot, I know that my wings need something to, as I like to say, grab onto, atmosphere. Well, they don't have much of an atmosphere on Mars, so what are the wings, in this case, the rotors of a helicopter, what are they going to grab onto? So they designed this in a way that the blades will turn very fast and they're angled to the best degree that they felt might make this thing fly. They weren't sure that they would be able to pull this off. Well, I want to show you what they were able to pull off on the very first flight. There's no video. I'm sorry, there's no audio to this, but this is a video camera that's attached onto the Perseverance rover, looking to the helicopter in the bottom middle. And there it goes. It didn't go up very high. It didn't go anywhere other than up for about 25 seconds and down. That was the first flight. They were ecstatic because, again, they didn't even know that it would fly, period. They did this more than 70 more times, each time going higher and then going at a range. And it worked much, much better than they ever thought that it could. The video that I just showed you is not AI. This is the actual video that was taken on the Perseverance rover and beamed down to Earth using NASA's Deep Space Network. That's pretty cool. And you can imagine that there are many, many uses of this type of technology on spacecraft that are going to different places. Like, for example, when we send another rover to Mars, we can send a helicopter and it can scout out the path that they want the rover to go on. They may not be able to see that there's something that if you get into, you may not be able to get out of it, and that's really, really bad because you can't call somebody on the phone and say, hey, can you go fix this? It ain't gonna happen. Yeah, so many uses for these helicopters, and so it worked out much better than they thought, and it's something that NASA will probably incorporate on future ground-based missions. You've heard of the Hubble Space Telescope, I assume, launched on one of the space shuttles back in 1995. For 30 years, the Hubble has been above the Earth by about 350 miles, traveling at over 17,000 miles per hour, taking incredible photos. And many of the pictures that you have historically seen that come from NASA probably have come from the Hubble Space Telescope. Back in the 1990s, even before Hubble was launched, they said we need to start planning the next one because this takes a lot of work, a lot of engineering, a lot of designing. And so they started working on what eventually would be called the James Webb Space Telescope, named after NASA's second administrator. Well, this was going to be much more powerful, much bigger than Hubble. So they had a lot of design issues, a lot of concerns about how do we get this thing that's about the size of a tennis court up into space? We can't just launch something that's the size of a tennis court on top of a rocket. So they designed it so that it would basically fold up. And once it was in space, it had to then be unfolded. Well, that creates lots and lots of potential issues and problems. There were over 200 single points on this telescope that had to open and lock into position perfectly for this telescope to become a success. And if just one of them did not work properly, the entire mission could be lost. It worked perfectly, better than what they had even hoped for. So they built this, they put it on top of an Ariane 5 rocket, The European Space Agency was a part of this very exciting launch by providing the launch vehicle. They launched the James Webb Space Telescope on Christmas morning 2021 from French Guiana in South America. It took 30 days from that point to get to its new home in what we call the Lagrange Point 2, which is roughly about 1 million miles, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. Remember a moment ago I mentioned that Hubble is 350 miles above the Earth, orbiting the Earth. Okay, this isn't orbiting the Earth, and it's not only 350 miles away. And by the way, you probably know that there were some technical problems with Hubble when it was launched. We were able to, with the space shuttle, go up there, grab it, pull it in, fix it, put it back out, and they actually upgraded it a couple times. We can't do that. It's 1 million miles away. So it had to be perfect, it had to work. We can't just go out there and grab it and fix it. Why did we, anybody know why we needed to get it 1 million miles away from Earth? Anybody know? This uses infrared technology, so it's different than Hubble. And the Earth actually emits heat, and that won't work very well with James Webb. So they had to get it far away from the Earth, the heat that the Earth generates. They found this very sweet spot, as we can call it, the Lagrange Point 2, which involves a number of things, including a nice gravitational spot where the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun are equal. Okay, so it's a nice place to have it. It took 30 days, and on its journey, it launched from Earth. This is what it looked like once it was released from the Ariane 5 rocket. And it went through this process here to unfold over a 30-day period. And again, as I said, luckily everything worked perfectly. One thing went wrong, the whole mission could have been lost. This is the sun shield. There are 5 of these shields that are less than the thickness of one of our hairs. And you can imagine that if you look at this thing wrong, it could very easily tear. And they had some issues with tearing when they were putting it together. So that was a great concern, but it didn't. It opened perfectly. And there are 3 sections to the main mirror. 2 of the sections folded up, and those had to open up perfectly. And luckily, they did. And so I want to show you the first image that was released from the James Webb Space Telescope. I think it was like 6 or 7 months after it was launched. On the left-hand side of your screen, you see what's called the deep field. Let's go back to Hubble for a moment. After the Hubble Space Telescope was in use for quite a number of years, scientists said, let's try something. That area of the sky looks really boring. We don't see a whole lot of stuff going on here. Let's see what we can see. So Hubble took a number of pictures. Astrophotography is not about just taking one picture. You could, the people that are going to be set up tonight, if you talk to them about taking pictures, this is what they're going to tell you. You don't just take one picture and bam, this is what you get. You have to take a whole bunch of pictures, and you take the light from each picture, and you combine them all together, and then this is what you get. So they took pictures with the Hubble, they put them all together, and they got the Hubble Deep Field. I don't have a picture of that, you can look it up online, but it's looking at the same area of the sky. James Webb actually showed us a lot more because it was a lot more powerful. Let me show you how powerful this is. The picture, the image that you're looking at, as described by scientists, is a very blah, boring part of the sky. Everything that you're looking at in this picture, with the exception of any of these that have the spikes, so they're like maybe 10, 12 of them, those are all stars within our own galaxy. Everything else that you're looking at here is a galaxy. It's not a star, it's a galaxy. 10,000 of them. in a bland section of the sky. 10,000 galaxies. Galaxies are made up of millions and millions of stars. It wasn't until the mid-1990s that we even understood and knew that there were exoplanets. What's an exoplanet? A planet outside of our own galaxy. There are 8 planets in our system. Back in the 80s, we speculated, we hypothesized that there were probably planets around other stars outside of our system, but we didn't have any proof of it. In the mid-90s, we then had proof. Now scientists know that there's a very good chance that most stars out there have 1 or more planets. So now start to do the math. And then you might start wondering, is there something going on out there? Stephen Hawking, a brilliant scientist who passed a number of years ago, was asked the question, is there life out there? And his response is, oh yeah, it's out there. So, I think we all get stuck in our own little worlds every day with our issues and our problems, and we kind of forget to look at the big, big picture. This is the big, big picture. And by the way, this is just a obscure area of the sky, as scientists call it. So if this is an obscure part of the sky, what's going on over here, and here, and here, and there? That's what I love about astronomy. This is what I love about NASA. NASA does big things, takes great risk. It's all about intellectual curiosity. I tell my sociology students, we humans can do great things when we come together. We really can. Think about this Artemis launch that's coming up. Think about the images that we can take of the universe beyond what we know. Unfortunately, we just like to fight and bicker with one another so much, and that's what takes up all of our time and our energy. But when we come together, we can do great big things. And NASA is at the forefront of doing those big, great things. And that's why I'm so proud to be a part of it. We are winding down on time, but there's one more thing that I want to show you, and I think you're going to love this, and this is definitely something that you probably want to check out later today or tomorrow. Anyone? I asked this question, I believe. Anyone ever heard of NASA eyes? No? Nobody in here? Yeah, you're going to like this. And I'm just going to demonstrate it for a second, kind of whet your appetite, and then let you take it from there. You can just do a Google search for NASA eyes. It will take you to this website right here. Nope. Yep. NASA has eyes on a variety of things. The one I'm going to display to show you right now is eyes on the solar system. What are we looking at here? We are looking at a real-time demonstration of where everything is. Not only our planets in relationship to the sun, but different satellites. For example, I spent some time talking about the Hubble. So if you type in Hubble, click on it, it will give you an overview of the spacecraft, find out anything and everything you want to learn about it, and then it will show you exactly where it is. You can go forward in time, you can go backward in time. So if you want to see where the Hubble will be in 2 months, you can do that. If you want to see where it was 5 years ago, you can do that. There are other spacecraft. There's the Europa Clipper that we launched not long ago. It's headed to one of the moons of Jupiter looking for life. If you want to see where it is, type in Europa Clipper. It will show you where it is and tell you all about the spacecraft. So NASA eyes. I think you're going to really, really like it, so check it out. All right, so with that said, I think we've got a little time for some Q&A, and what I'd like to tell you is that I may or may not have an answer to your question. Here's what I guarantee. I guarantee that I am not going to make it up. If I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know. So, what's on your mind?
The deep space picture.
Yes.
This one. I noticed that some of the objects. I noticed that some of the objects, especially the more sort of gold or coppery colored ones, there's some distortion there, and I wondered if you know what the cause of that distortion is.
Gravitational lensing, I don't have the expertise to truly speak on it, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Is it like a distortion?
It is some type of a time, space issue that's happening, but again, I don't have the expertise to truly be able to address it on a factual basis. But it is something related to Einstein's theories. He predicted this, and there it is.
Are they doing much medical research with the space station?
Absolutely,
As
yes.
far as finding new medications and cures, pharmaceuticals?
Yes, so a lot of people question, why are we putting money into a space program? What does it do? What is it doing for me? A lot of things that we love and enjoy today, like cell phones, microwave ovens, certain healthcare products and technologies, have all come from the space programs. And yes, they do continually work on medicines and treatments for cancer and so on and so forth. So yes, and if you go on NASA.gov, you can actually look at specifically what they're doing and what they're trying to work on. So yes, that is one of the many things that they do on the ISS. Questions? While she's going over there, I do have a YouTube channel, so you can point your camera to that, it takes you right to it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, you know the whole. But I have a NASA playlist, and if you go to the NASA playlist, I've had the opportunity to go to Kennedy Space Center and see a couple rocket launches up close. For example, the most recent one was June of 2024. I was invited to see the launch of the NOAA NASA GOES satellite on a Falcon Heavy rocket. I was at in the press area, as close as you can get to the launch pad, 39A. It was a Falcon Heavy launch, about 3 miles roughly, and I got some incredible videos, not only of the launch, but of the 2 boosters coming back and landing. So if you've never had the opportunity to see a launch up close, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take the opportunity if you can do it. You don't even have to necessarily go at the Kennedy Space Center. You can go to Titusville or be prepared for billions of people, especially for this upcoming launch of Artemis 2. It's going to be crazy. But there's nothing like seeing a launch up close. It is truly an incredible experience, one that you will never forget.
My question is about the Reuben and how I'm listening to your talk and I'm thinking, well, wait a second, it's land-based. Is it going to be obsolete soon?
So
That's a huge deal.
the Vera Rubin
Yeah.
Observatory, you're talking about the one that's being
Chile,
built in
the
Chile?
one in Chile.
Yeah.
It's not quite online, but you've seen the first 5
Yes.
pictures. I mean, they're outrageous.
Right, so I had the opportunity in 2022, I went with a group of people down to Chile, and I went to the observatory. It was still being built, so we only got the opportunity to go into the into the operations room. If you go on my YouTube channel, you can see what the inside of it looks like, but it wasn't operational. So, good question. We have ground-based telescopes and we have space-based telescopes. What's the deal? We have something called the atmosphere. I was talking about it earlier. When the astronauts come back from space, they have to go through the atmosphere, and it creates quite a ride for them. A lot of heat builds up. Well, the atmosphere will distort our ability to see what's going on beyond Earth. So if you're going to use ground space telescopes on Earth, the best thing you can do is find a place that has very little water in the atmosphere. You don't want to use one here in Florida with all the humidity. So Chile, northern Chile in the Atacama Desert is one of the best places that you could build big telescopes. And so that's why most of the biggest ones in the world are there, other than like Hawaii. But they're still going to have to deal with the atmosphere, even though there's not a lot of water in the atmosphere. Why put them in space? We get it above our atmosphere, and you don't have to worry about the atmosphere. Each has its benefits and its challenges. If it's here on Earth and it breaks, like the Vera Rubin, you can fix it. You send James Webb 1 million miles away, you can't fix it. But James Webb, if we were to have apples and apples, and here we don't have apples and apples, but if we were to have the same type of technology, the one that's in space is going to do a better job than the one that's ground-based.
So that's why it's so huge?
Yes,
Because it has
that's
immense
why it's
telescopes, it's just outrageous.
It's incredibly large, and that's one of the reasons, because, well, they can build something really big here on Earth. You don't have to put it on a spacecraft, and you don't have to send it to space, so that's an advantage. The bigger the mirror, the more light you can collect, the more you can see. Yeah, so,
All right, well, we're hitting our time mark.
yes. Well, thank you so much.
Do we have one more question, maybe? Somebody in the back? All right, well, the great news is that we're going to be doing this presentation again, so you're welcome to come back.
Before you leave, NASA loves for me to get pictures of people that attend my meetings, presentations. So if you are interested, I would love to take a picture with whoever would like to be in it. This is completely voluntary. NASA has very strict guidelines about this kind of stuff. So if you want to participate, I'm going to have you fill out a waiver form. And I've got the waiver forms here. So if you'd like to participate, come on up, grab the waiver form, get a pen, fill it out, and then we'll take a quick picture. If you don't want to, no problem, but make sure to visit my table in the back on the right-hand side before you leave. Pick up some free stuff. All right?
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Ambassador. All right, you can come up to the stage. It may be easier for you to come on stage using the stairs over there.
It's different, but this is still,
Sorry, I'm just.
All right, the fun continues. We're about 45 minutes away from our Family Science Fest.
NASA stuff for NASA.
Oh, there's lots of pens, so yeah, you might want to pass those around with a pen and more people can fill them out quicker. Thank you. Want to snag a cup extra pen?
Yeah, that one's made with some stuff for them. I haven't actually seen it, so it's that one's the first time. I feel for them. Back across the park. The telescopes will be at Thank you so much. Just trying
Need somebody to take the picture for you? Okay. Yeah, I'll take it and text it to you.
Is this still working?
It's still on.
It's still on?
Live.
All right. Very good.
There is an amazing museum in St. Petersburg.
Right, hello everybody. We're gonna get started probably about 2:30, so sit back, enjoy. We turned the air on, we had the heat on.
I was wondering what that was.
Just a little detail.
That's something to be interested in seeing, but it is an amazing museum. It's like changing actually to see what actually happened with those poor people. I mean, it's like 3 hours too, like it's not just. So we get there we go. Over 1,000 members of Thank you. So on, you know what? I just have when we get you, she has the printouts in the museum. And because of your water and everything from God water.
It's good enough.
Gotta repeat the same thing all over.
This right here, I'm going to go to the Marine Museum. I went there like 20 years ago. Florida Aquarium. So not everything's free, but you have to just do the money. Tampa Bay History Center, Tampa Bay. So NARM is the National Something Museum Association. So they have the something in the Tampa. What if they have Sylvie Gardens? Hollis Garden, I was going to talk to you about that someday. That's the one we went and gave to Napa Garden. No, we did not do that. We went to the book. That was on my list. State? No, different place. Museum, I think I've been there more. And recently, for instance, there was some place on here. No, Ocala's got the advertising. So this one is for the gardens. Yes. I can't explain it. who she was, who she is, and she always treated us very well. She wasn't a very affectionate person, but sometimes she would do like that to your head. Yeah. Yeah, like, but then she was never like a huggy. It was enough that we knew. Yeah, I'm not a huggy. Millie's like, she like hugs everybody. I'm like, Amber's definitely not a huggy person, and neither was Lisa. Lisa was the least of all. I think you're not, but I do sometimes. Sometimes when I go out, like to the different buildings, and people see me, like they come to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're not in trouble, so they like me. You know?
Ryan and I were talking
about Spanish ones. They go, hey, mommy, it's good to see you, mommy, and I'm like,
yeah.
And I forget that's what they do. It's like a term of endearment. They just call everything on a mama. They don't call busy. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Oh, look, you can go on up to like a $1,000 membership. Where you get 10 adults for the thing, 10 adults for the house. You get to go to the founder group. Family membership. We're so far away, but they have all the events. It wasn't a bad drive. It's too far to like come. So they have this dream with Tales from the Trees. I would love to do that. That's now. Look at all the events they have. Here's us. We just happen to get us the right weekend. Like they had a yellow.
You can line them up with the shelves and walk along.
See, I wouldn't come and do the sound books. See, like, that's $25 for members, just a really good deal.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Starry Starry Night. Who has been at one of our previous festivals? All right, lots of repeating hands, but lots of new. That's exciting. My name is Erica, and I've been with Bok Tower Gardens for 10 years, so I am very excited for this day. It's one of my favorite events of the year. So our presenter in this session is a two-time alumnus of the University of Central Florida. Do we have any other Knights in the room? All right, one, go Knights! He continued on to earn his doctoral degree from Nova Southeastern University and is a tenured professor with Valencia College. Go Pumas! I bet you didn't know that. All right, so it is my wonderful pleasure to welcome to the stage our NASA ambassador. He has been a NASA ambassador since 2019, Dr. Mark Gillette.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So, welcome. I'm glad that you were able to come and spend a few minutes with me learning about some of the very exciting things that are happening at NASA. So again, my name is Mark Gillette, and I'm an ambassador for NASA. I've been so since 2019. When I'm not doing this, I'm very busy as a tenured professor of sociology over at Valencia College in Orlando. I've been teaching for over 30 years. Wow, time flies. But I'm not here to talk to you about sociology. I'm here to talk to you about, again, some of the very exciting things that are happening at NASA. There are a lot of things happening at NASA, and I've only got about 35 minutes to talk to you. So I have narrowed it down to just a few items, and I'll spend most of our time talking about a very exciting mission that we have coming up, hopefully within 2 weeks, the Artemis II. But before we get to that, there are other items that I do want us to talk about. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about the International Space Station. And if you watch the news, something quite interesting happened in the last couple of weeks on the ISS. Then we're going to go on and talk about one of the rovers on Mars called Perseverance. From there, we'll talk about the James Webb Space Telescope. And then I'm going to show you something really cool that you can do later on today when you go home on your computer, and that's NASA Eyes. Spend some time at the very end doing some Q&A. So let's get started right into the International Space Station. This incredible endeavor that was built predominantly back in the 1990s is at the very moment flying, orbiting the Earth at over 17,000 miles per hour. It's about 250 miles above us, so it completes an orbit roughly every 90 minutes, actually every 97 minutes to be exact. If you saw in the news, one of the astronauts from Crew 11 had a medical condition. And so NASA debated what needed to be done. They did not have the appropriate equipment on board the ISS to deal with the medical condition. So they decided to bring those astronauts back home just slightly more than a month before they were scheduled to come home. So they came home about a week ago. They have not released, NASA has not released the name of the astronaut for privacy reasons, but whoever it is, I'm sure is getting the appropriate attention that they need. Okay? The next launch is scheduled for February 15th, where astronauts will be launched from Kennedy Space Center to go up to the International Space Station for the next crew or rotation. They call it expeditions. They're currently on expedition number 74, and if you look here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a patch. One of the things I love about NASA is the symbolism. It's more than just sending something to Mars or sending something to the moon. It's about getting people emotionally involved in what's happening. And so one of the ways they do that is by creating art. And each mission has a patch. And this happens to be the patch for Expedition 74. All right, I'll show you the patch for the Artemis II launch in a few minutes. So lots and lots of symbolism within NASA. The ISS is roughly about the size of an American football stadium. Again, built back predominantly in the 1990s, expanded upon in the early 2000s. It is an international collaboration among many different countries. There can be anywhere from 4 to 8 or more astronauts on board at any time. They're doing all kinds of research and scientific experiments at any given time while they're up there. They keep very, very busy. Generally during their 6-month stay, some will stay for longer periods of time, but it's generally a 6-month stay. Back when we had the space shuttle program from 1981 to 2011, we could take astronauts into orbit around Earth. And when the International Space Station was created and inhabited, starting in the year 2000, we could take those astronauts back and forth using the space shuttle. But when we retired the space shuttle in 2011, we didn't have a way of getting American astronauts back and forth. So we were depending upon the Russians. That's when NASA decided to create what's called the Commercial Crew Program. It's basically contracting with private companies like SpaceX to bring our astronauts back and forth. And so SpaceX and Boeing are the two main contractors. Now Boeing has had a lot of issues and a lot of problems with their crew capsule called Starliner. And so they have only one time successfully brought 2 astronauts to the ISS, Butch and Sonny, if you follow the astronauts. And actually Sonny just retired in the last few days. Other than that, they've all been brought up by SpaceX in their Crew Dragon. So when the next crew launches, currently scheduled for February 15th, they will be using a SpaceX Crew Dragon to bring the astronauts to the ISS. Have any of you ever heard of Spot the Station? Maybe 1 or 2 of you. All right, here's something cool. Here's some homework. Go on Google later today, type in Spot the Station, and you can connect to the NASA website, which is spotthestation.nasa.gov. You can put in your location, put in your email address. When the International Space Station is visible from where you are at, you will receive an email. The email generally comes about 24 hours before you can do the viewing. It will tell you the date, the time, the direction to look, and how long you will see it. So if you go outside and you follow the directions, you will not see this. You will see a little white dot go across the sky. All right? Now, a lot of people are like, what do you do? Why do I want to go outside and see a little white dot go across the sky? Well, with a little imagination, you can go, that's the little white dot going across the sky. Over 17,000 miles per hour, with several human beings on board, living and working in space. To me, that's pretty cool. So check out spotthestation.nasa.gov and sign up and watch the ISS fly above your head. Here's the big thing that's happening right now at NASA, the Artemis program. So let's step back in time. Go back to the 1960s and the 70s. The United States said, we're going to the moon. Kennedy announced it to the world. It takes a lot of smart time, a lot of planning and designing and engineering to pull off something like this. But we did it. There were some challenges, weren't there? Apollo 13, things didn't go well, but they actually went awesome because we didn't lose those 3 astronauts. That takes a lot of brain power to get that kind of stuff done. And we went to the moon 6 times. But then we went to the space shuttle program. So we abandoned deep space. We decided to start working around the Earth. So we took the shuttle up 200, 300 miles. We did all of our work for a number of years there. Then NASA said, you know what? We know that private industry is eventually going to start sending up satellites. They're going to start sending up tourists. They're going to send up private astronauts. So we're going to refocus our attention to deep space. That means going back to the moon, followed by going on to Mars. So the Artemis program was created. What you're looking on the right-hand side of your screen here is Artemis 1 sitting on pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center about 3 weeks before launch. I had the opportunity to go out to KSC and to go on one of the tours, get off the bus, and get some pictures of the SLS, the Space Launch System. That's what the entire rocket is called. So let me talk a little bit about the rocket. This section probably looks familiar to you if you remember the Space Shuttle program, correct? The Space Shuttle program, you had the core, which is this, and then you had solid rocket boosters, which are those. Okay? So these are all things that do come out of the Space Shuttle era. This core tank right here actually has 2 tanks within it. It has liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Those are the fuels that propel this rocket into space using, you can't see them, 4 RS-25 engines. Okay? If you could see the engines, they might look familiar to you as well, because those are the engines that were used in the Space Shuttle program. With each space shuttle, there were 3 RS-25 engines. There are 4 engines used for this because it's much bigger and it needs to go much further than the space shuttle went. So there are 4 supercharged RS-25 engines that you can't see that are below here. Okay? In addition, the solid rocket boosters, whoa, come back here. The solid rocket boosters have also been modified. In the Space Shuttle program, there were what's called 4 segments, 1, 2, 3, 4. With the SLS program, there's an extra section that has been added onto each one, and basically more propellant, all right? So they're also supercharged. The engines are supercharged. Much bigger rocket needs to go much further. You need more thrust to get it done. Speaking of thrust, these 2 solid rocket boosters are doing 75% of the work. They do 75% of the work to get this spacecraft into space. After 2 minutes after launch, these 2 SRBs will separate. Then that's when the job of the 4 engines will continue for the next 6 minutes to get the rest of the spacecraft into space. All right. Right here, you can't see it because it's covered by a fairing, is this right here. This is the Orion Space Crew Capsule. This is where the astronauts go. And so if they in fact launch on time, currently the launch date is Thursday, February 6th at 9:41 p.m. I'll show you the schedule in a few minutes. The 4 astronauts I'm going to show you in a minute will be right there inside of this capsule on the top. Okay? This here is the service module. This is an international collaboration. So this was built by the European Space Agency. That's their contribution to the Artemis program. And if you look right there, that says ESA, European Space Agency. And then, of course, you have the NASA logo right above it. All right. The core stage is built by Boeing. The Orion capsule, built by Lockheed Martin. Now, Artemis 1 launched on November 16th, 2022. It came back, this came back right here. Unlike the Space Shuttle program, where certain things were reused, for this rocket, very little will be reusable. Basically, just the capsule. So when this came back, it splashed down off of the coast of San Diego, California. And that's the only thing that came back. There were no astronauts on board Artemis 1, again, that occurred in November of 2022. If you want to see the flight path before you leave today, I have a table set out outside on the right-hand side. I have a chart, and you can take a look at what the flight path was. I'm going to show you the flight path for Artemis 2 in just a moment. Okay? So, this will be launching from pad 39B at Kennedy Space Center. Well, let me go ahead and just show you. Here is the flight path. It launches from Kennedy Space Center. They're going to do a couple loops around the Earth, testing everything out to make sure that they're good to go toward the moon. And then they're going to do a flyby around the moon. Notice it's not an orbit. They're not going to be orbiting it. One flyby and then back to Earth. It's a 10-day mission. All right. What's the purpose of Artemis 2? Well, the purpose of Artemis 1 was to test out this brand new rocket to make sure that everything that's all assembled works properly with no astronauts on board. The main purpose of Artemis 2 is to have humans inside to be able to manually operate everything, to make sure that they can operate things from a human perspective. Okay? When they do this flyby around the moon, it will be the furthest in space that any humans have ever gone. When the astronauts went for the Apollo program, like for example, Apollo 8, when they flew by the moon on Christmas, they were much closer to the moon than what the Artemis astronauts will be. Here's the way I've heard it. If you take a basketball, you put it in your hand and you hold it out, that's about what size the moon will look to them from their perspective. But they will be further than any humans have ever flown into space. So pretty exciting. Then they're going to come back and they're going to splash down off the coast of San Diego. Again, 10-day mission. Let me show you the, before I get to the actual flight path, have any of you have ever heard of CubeSats? Anyone ever heard of CubeSats? Yes, one person? So a CubeSat is basically a very small satellite. It's about the size, most of them are about the size of a microwave oven. And so what we've been doing lately is including small satellites on the launch of bigger satellites to kind of ride share, catch a ride. And so there will be some on Artemis 2, and they will be released, I think it's about 10 hours after launch. So you can go on NASA.gov and find out more information about these really cool CubeSats that will be conducting science for the Artemis 2 program. All right, so let me show you the 4 astronauts. The 3 people here on the right, the 3 people on the right-hand side are the Americans. And then we have a Canadian. Again, and it is an international collaboration. So we have the European Space Agency contributing the service module. We have a Canadian astronaut. We're not going to go it alone this time. We're going to go along with other people, other countries around the world, which I think is a great thing. Different perspectives will be provided to us. I mentioned the symbolism. I mentioned patching. So this is the official patch for the Artemis 2 program. Anybody, would any of you in here like to be one of these 4 people?
No.
I see some hands. I'd like to. That would be a ride you will never forget as long as you live, right? All that thrust getting you into space. But just imagine when these 4 people come back in the Orion capsule, they will be traveling at over 22,000 miles per hour. You're talking about a major Universal Disney roller coaster? That's a heck of a ride. That's a heck of a ride. Mars, I'm not going to sign up. I'm thinking Mars is a one-way trip. That is the goal. The goal is to take this space launch system and after we figure out how to live on another body, like the moon, for an extended period of time, because we have to figure this stuff out before we go to Mars. Then we go to Mars. It's going to take like 9 months to get to Mars. It's not the moon. It's like two and a half days, 250,000 miles. It's going to take 9 months to get to Mars. You don't want to just turn around and come back, and in fact you can't. Well, you could, but you need the planets to be aligned so that you can get back as quick as you can using what fuel you've got available. So you don't want to just turn around and come back. You're going to need to stay there for a certain period of time. And then it's a 9-month journey back. So you're looking at a 3-year mission. A lot of things need to go right to get you from here to there to back here. So, or let some of you sign up for Mars or pass that experience. A week ago today, the Artemis 2 rocket right now was on its way to Pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center. And so I was online and I just took a couple screenshots. This is the vehicle assembly building. Right here. Whoa. This is the vehicle assembly building and it's rolling out. This is where it's been assembled. It's rolling out, so these are some of the first images of it coming out. And this is it sitting on the pad. So it's on the pad right now. And in fact, you can go on YouTube and type in live shot Artemis rocket and you can see a camera pointing toward it. It's there right now. All right, so this is the launch schedule that I was mentioning earlier. Here's the earliest launch date, a week from this coming Thursday, February the 6th, 9:41 p.m. Okay? Now, NASA often has to delay flights. There are 4 human beings sitting on an explosive bomb. You don't want to take chances. So, yes, for us spectators, it's very frustrating to drive over there or to walk out your front door and go, oh, they're not sending it up. But NASA is going to take extreme measures to make sure that they do everything humanly possible for a safe flight for those 4 very brave people. So it may not go on that day, but here is a list of other later dates and times that they're going to try if it gets delayed. And it takes us to the end of April. So you can always, check on the news. The news loves drama, as I'm sure you know. And so now they're really talking about Artemis. They didn't talk about Artemis too much when they were building the rocket. It was in the VAB because that's kind of boring. Now the news is covering it, so if you watch the news, they're going to tell you if it's been postponed, let me take a look. But has anyone in here ever actually gone over to the East Coast to see a launch? So if you haven't, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do it. If you're here, you're probably interested in this stuff. If you're here and you just got tricked into coming into the room going, oh my God, this is forces, what am I doing? Well, that's one thing. I think most of you are here voluntarily, and you're probably interested in this. If you happen to live in the area and you've never been over, you got to do it. Maybe not for this launch, but you have to try at least one. I was invited by NASA back in June of 2024 to watch a NOAA NASA GOES weather satellite being launched on a Falcon Heavy rocket. I was at the media site, which is as close as you can get, about 3 miles from the pad. It was a beautiful, clear day. Unbelievable. Just absolutely one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in my life. And I've done some crazy things. I've been skydiving, I've jumped off buildings, I've traveled to 80 countries around the world. I've done some really awesome things. And this is at the top of the list. Take a trip over and watch a launch up close if you can. It really is a very, very exciting thing to do. So, all right. Let's move on and talk about a couple other quick missions. I want to talk about the newest NASA Mars rover. It's not necessarily so new. It's been around for a few years, but it's Perseverance. It launched from Cape Canaveral back in 2020, and it landed, as you can see, quite a few months later on Mars. So it's been there for a few years now. One of the major objectives was to collect soil sample, Martian soil samples. It's done that. Unfortunately, there have been some budget issues. I'm not going to become political, but there have been cuts to the budget, and so at this point, there is no plan to go and pick them up and return them to Earth, and that was the plan. A separate mission to go and collect those soil samples, bring them back to Earth for intensive study. This rover has lots of scientific instruments that can do a lot of testing, but not to the degree that we can do if those soil samples are brought back to Earth. So right now, that's on hold. We'll see what develops. But the rover's still there. It's still doing science. It's still moving around. And if you go on nasa.gov, you can actually see the path that it's taken. What is it doing there? Lots of things. One of the things is it's looking for life. I doubt that it's going to find any green people walking around with antennas. I doubt that it probably will find any current living life, but it is looking for any evidence of life, past or current. Mars doesn't have an atmosphere. So life as we know it needs things like water and an atmosphere. And so maybe at one time it had something, and maybe there are some remnants of life that are below the soil. One of the reasons they did some sampling. So it's looking for past life. And so far, some good things have come up, but not conclusive. So they're still looking. They're still looking. How many of you are familiar with the Ingenuity helicopter? All right, a few of you. For those who are not familiar with it, the great minds at NASA said, you know what? Yeah, we know that Mars doesn't have much of an atmosphere, but can we make something fly on a distant planet? So as a pilot myself, I understand that my wings of my plane need something to, could we say, grab onto? Atmosphere. When you don't have an atmosphere, what are you going to grab onto? What are you going to suspend from, per se? So they built this Ingenuity helicopter. It's about the size of a microwave oven. And they designed it in a way that the rotors are positioned for maximum lift. And they made the blades turn really, really, really fast. They sent it along with the Perseverance rover. It was underneath it. They got to Mars after being there for a period of time. They dropped the helicopter. Well, they didn't drop it, but it was lowered. The rover backed up. It had a camera. Now it's time to see, is this thing going to fly? Let's take a look. The video I'm going to show you is not AI. This video was taken from the Perseverance rover. It was the camera was on the rover. You can see, here's the helicopter right here. They started up the rotors. Will it fly? They're not sure. They're not convinced they can get it to fly. There it goes. Didn't go very high. Didn't go any distance at all. It only stays up like 25 seconds, 30 seconds. But it worked. They went on to do this more than 70 times, each time going higher and going a longer distance. It worked better than they ever thought that it could. It came right back down to where it was. It was a great success. So in fact, what NASA is planning is for future missions, like perhaps future rovers, they'll include one of these. One of the simple tasks that they can do is they can go out in front of the rover as it's moving, and it can identify places that it shouldn't be going, because the people driving the rovers at JPL in California, though they have great cameras on board to see what's ahead of them, they may not see everything, and getting this perspective from above may keep them out of trouble, because you get stuck in a hole on Mars, you're not just calling Uber and going to Mars and getting this thing out of the hole. Okay? See a hand come out.
They delivered that horizontally?
Yes, they did. Yep. Yeah. So, great uses for these helicopters. All right. Let's talk about Hubble. The Hubble Space Telescope, launched by one of our space shuttles back in 1995. It currently orbits the Earth, going over 17,000 miles per hour at about 250, 300 miles above us. It orbits the Earth every 90 minutes, like the International Space Station, every 97 minutes to be exact. All right. Many of the pictures that you may see in my books have come from the Hubble Space Telescope. It's done an awesome, incredible job over its over 30-year existence. Things didn't start out so well. When it was launched, there were some problems with the mirrors. So we were lucky because it was only a few hundred miles right above our head, so we took the space shuttle that we had at the time. We launched it, we went, caught up with it, grabbed it, pulled it in. The astronauts went out, fixed it, sent it back out. All right? That's an option. That was an option for us. When I talk about the James Webb, not an option. Why? Well, it's about 1 million miles, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. Okay? It's a long ways away. And we don't have anything that's going to be able to go that far at this time to fix anything that goes wrong. So when the Hubble was getting ready to be launched, NASA was already thinking forward, thinking we need to come out with, start designing and building the next space-based telescope. It takes a long time to work through all of this. So they started on what eventually would be called the James Webb Space Telescope. This telescope would be quite different than Hubble. For example, it uses infrared technology. We have some telescopes set up today. Right now they're doing some solar viewing, and tonight they're going to be focused on planets and whatever else is available, weather permitting. If you talk to any of these people about astrophotography, what they're going to tell you is that you don't just aim a camera, be it your cell phone camera or the Hubble Space Telescope, into an area of the sky, snap one picture, and bang, you come out with something. No, it's all about taking lots and lots and lots and lots of pictures, taking the light from each one of those pictures and combining them together. And then you get to see the image. Well, with the James Webb, it's using infrared technology, and heat and light is no bueno when trying to use infrared technology. So NASA knew that it needed to get this telescope in a place where there's very little light and no heat. And that is not orbiting the Earth, because the Earth emits heat. So they decided to send it to what's called the second Lagrange point. Okay? And not to get technical, basically it's a really nice area for a space-based infrared technology, space-based satellite to be. All right? 1 million miles away from the Earth. You will see right here, this is a sun shield. There are 5 layers to it. Each layer that you're looking at here is about the width of a human hair. Now imagine when they were designing this thing. Think about you being at home with aluminum foil, because that's kind of what this is like. And you know it's very easy to tear aluminum foil, correct? And this is much thinner than the aluminum foil that we would use to cook. So if you look at it wrong, it will tear. And that was one of the concerns. What are we going to do? Because not only do we have to deal with that, we have to deal with this incredibly large instrument, much larger than Hubble. Hubble is about the size of a bus, school bus. Webb is about the size of a tennis court. Well, you can't just put that thing on the top of a rocket and launch it to space. So they had to build it in a way that it would fold up. So it's all folded. They put it on the top of an Ariane 5 rocket. The European Space Agency was also involved in this mission. Their contribution was the launch of it in French Guiana in South America, Christmas morning 2021. They folded it up, they launched it from Earth, and then it had to go through this process of opening. It was a 30-day journey after launch to get it to this second launch point. Everything had to open perfectly. There were over 200 points where something would unlatch, something would open up, and then something had to latch to lock it up. And if one of those failed, the entire mission could be a complete failure. And this $5 billion instrument is totally worth $0. Decades of work that people put into this is worthless. Everything had to work perfectly. Well, the good news is it did. It did, in fact, work perfectly. It went through this process, it opened up, and after a few months of being in its new home, it delivered its very first image. Now, what you're looking at on the left-hand side of your screen is called the James Webb Deep Sky. Hubble did the same thing. Hubble, scientists took Hubble and they said, this looks like a boring area of the sky. Let's take a whole bunch of pictures and see what we find. And they did, and they were amazed at what they found. They took the James Webb, they pointed it toward the same section of the sky. Let's see if we can see more. We ended up seeing a whole bunch more. Let me explain what you're looking at here. Anything that looks like this is a star within our own galaxy, star within the field of view that we're looking at out into space. So you can see that there are probably 8, 10, or 12 of them. If you take those out of the picture, everything else that you're looking at here is a galaxy. That's incredible. This is an obscure area of the sky where there's not supposed to be anything.
How big is the area?
The area, as I understand it, is if you take your thumb and you stick it out.
Like a square centimeter or something like that?
Yeah, it's just a little tiny section of the sky. There are over 10,000 galaxies in the image that you're looking at right now. Every galaxy is made up of millions and millions of stars. Up until the mid-1990s, scientists, we did not know with conclusive evidence that they were exoplanets. Exoplanet is a planet outside of our own Milky Way galaxy. They were able to confirm that in the mid-90s. Now scientists understand that there is, on average, at least one exoplanet for every star that's out there. At least one. Some have 2, 3, 4. Start doing the math. We humans tend to get caught up in our little issues, problems, right? But when we look at the big picture, you've heard that expression, the big picture? Well, this is the big picture. What's going on out there? When Stephen Hawking, a brilliant scientist, was asked many years ago, is there life out there? His answer was absolutely, positively yes. There's something going on out there. Where is it? Is it somewhere here? Or is it here? Or is it there? Or is it everywhere? We don't know. We don't know.
One day.
That's why. Intellectual curiosity. That's what I love about NASA. It's not about just simply sending equipment into space. It's not even just about sending humans into space. It's about intellectual curiosity. What's going on beyond our own home? I've got just a few minutes left, and I do want to show you one more very exciting thing that I mentioned earlier on the agenda, and that is NASA Eyes. I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about questions. Anybody in here familiar with NASA Eyes? One? Well, you're going to like this. You got to check this out. Go home, type in NASA Eyes into your browser in Google, NASA has eyes on many different things. I want to show you just a moment eyes on the solar system. Right now, this real time shows us exactly where all of the planets are in relationship to the sun. You can move this back in time if you want to see what things were like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You can move it forward in time if you want to see where everything's going to be in 20 years. In addition to that, you can also, let's say I was talking about Hubble earlier. You can do a search for Hubble. It will pull up some information about Hubble, and it will show you exactly where Hubble is in relationship to us and everything else. And again, you can move it backward in time and forward in time, and you can do this for everything that's out there. Voyager, the 2 Voyagers that were launched in the 70s, you can do it for the Europa Clipper that's on its way to one of the moons of Jupiter. Really incredible, fun stuff, NASA eyes. So check it out. Okay. So,
All right, we have a few minutes for questions. If you have questions for Dr. Gillette, I'm going to hold the microphone, but you're welcome to ask the question.
and let me make a little note here. My note is, I may not have the answer to your question because I don't know everything about all of the missions and things going on at NASA, and I'm just going to simply say, I don't know, I'm not going to lie. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make something up, so if I don't know, I'm going to say that.
All right, our first question.
I know that you had said with the Perseverance that they brought the small helicopter. Why didn't they bring a small satellite?
I'm not 100% sure of this because that launched in 2020, but there may have been CubeSats on that launch. I'm not sure. This is a relatively new thing, these CubeSats, and will probably be included with most launches from this point forward. Not sure if they were doing it in 2020. They could have. There may have been some launch. As far as bringing it actually to Mars, there's no atmosphere, so they wouldn't bring it to Mars. They may drop it off in the, yeah. They didn't do that. But I don't know if they brought some along for the ride for maybe a launch shortly after launch from Earth.
So I'm trying to watch the launch of Artemis 2.
Yeah.
What's the trick to get in there close to see it?
Prayer. Prayer. So the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex sells tickets. I think they already went on sale. My guess is they're probably already sold out. So that may not be an option. That's the closest that you can get unless you have some type of connection with NASA, someone that works there or something. The other option would be to get as close as you can on one of the causeways, to go to Titusville. Just be forewarned, it's going to be crazy. There will be people from all over the world coming in to watch the launch. The more times that it's delayed, the better in the sense that people will get frustrated and leave and go away, but it's going to be challenging.
All right, this is our last question.
That Artemis capsule, how many square feet?
I don't know the exact dimensions. It accommodates 4 astronauts. Of course, it has a little compartment for a bathroom. It has storage space. I would probably liken it to the size of maybe 2 SUVs, the interiors of them, but don't quote me on that. I don't have the exact dimensions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. What an illuminating presentation from our NASA ambassador, Dr. Mark Gillette.
Before you leave, if you do the YouTube thing, you can point your camera here, and this will connect you to my YouTube channel. I have that launch that I spoke of earlier in my NASA playlist, so please consider subscribing and supporting my channel. I have a table that's set up right outside the door. If you've not stopped by, please stop by. Pick up lots of freebies on your way out. Also, I like to take a picture of people that attend my events because I submit those to NASA. NASA is very funny about things like this, and they require anyone who's in the picture to fill out a waiver form. So if you would like to be in the picture or bring some waiver forms out, just fill it out real quick and then we can come up on stage or give you a NASA sticker, take a quick picture so I can submit that to NASA. NASA may or may not use this as some type of a promotional piece at some point in the future, so you maybe will have your 15 minutes of fame if that ever comes to pass. If you don't want to, no problem, don't worry about it. But thank you so much for coming. Stop by my table and have a great rest of your day with all the awesome activities that are going on.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gillette.
I've got the
All right, we're going to be back in here at 3:30 with our wonderful keynote speaker, Dr. Philip Metzger.
We'll go back in line again?
Please,
You want the sticker? Because you'll be that big.
Yes.
You can do it. You want to go to the next?
Oh, okay, thank
Sit
you.
over here, somewhere different.
Thank you.
Like this, you did.
You don't have to, you can go to sleep.
And I'm gonna end this, and this, and this.